Cools. What's poppin'? So, back at it again. Oh, man. All right, y'all. Just like the whole rest of the motherfucking world, I've been thinking about obsession a lot. A lot about obsession lately. And one thing in particular that I've been thinking about obsession is really down to the aspect of what it means to be to desire something. What it means to desire something. Now, there will be slight spoilers with Obsession, so if you have not seen it and you don't want any spoilers whatsoever, definitely watch Obsession first, then come back to this video. But it makes me ponder, if you will. I've had some great discussions with the folks over in our Discord, and with those individuals, it has really kind of brought a few things into light, and it's made me obsess over obsession. You can't really see it, but it's right back there. I have the One Wish Willow right up there as well. So like I'm a huge fan of this movie. I'm all in. I'm all in. Now, it makes me think, because we have our protagonist, and his name's Baron, but they call him Bear. But we have our protagonist Bear, and Bear is considered to be a nice guy, but it's a trap, right? It's a trap. He doesn't set out to necessarily control Nikki to start. He just wants her to love him. But that wish, that private earning sensation, erases her entirely. And that particular distinction between that longing aspect and almost that ownership mentality collapses the moment he makes that wish, without asking what she wants. Welcome to the Night Owl, where we're going to go ahead and talk about desire as destruction. I have a few little midpoints here that I want to go ahead and discuss and talk about. I had to make some notes for this, as I always do for Night Owl. But with these midpoints that I have here, there's been something that's been really rattling around in my brain. But for me to really discuss this in a more of a higher light here, I do have to have obsession be my thread line, because that's where the idea came from. Now, in obsession, we have kind of like this monkey paw type of ruse, I guess, is what you can maybe consider it, where it is the One Wish Willow, the novelty toy that you snap it, and then boom, you make your wish or whatever. Well, you make your wish first, then you snap it, and then your wish comes true. But the wish comes true overbearingly, and it's something that can, turn something to be inherently evil or overwhelming even, right? Now, this being the main delivery or the main mechanism of delivery for the through line of the film, Bear's inability to see Nikki as a full person with her own interior life is what makes this shit absolutely evil, right? It's just he doesn't take consideration of the fact that like she is her own being who has autonomy of her own life. And because of that, there is a lot of situational awareness that really just kind of brings in too many factors here. Now, it kind of makes me think though in the film, like, what are we supposed to be afraid of? Are we supposed to be afraid of the One Wish Willow? Are we supposed to be afraid of Bear, right? Because it's just, who's the villain here? Who's the monster? Now, Bear's not a good dude. Let's just like be straight up with that. He's comes off as this nice, timid guy who is just like, I just want girls to talk to me. Like, he's that kind of guy, right? But usually that kind of guy is a prick, because they're selfish. They only want their own needs and all this other stuff. And because of that selfishness, that's what kind of like really comes into play here. Now, it makes me think a little bit deeper, right? Because there is a difference between desire and entitlement. Desire says, I want this, and entitlement says, I deserve this, right? So that cross between the two, it almost is like they're street corners, right? Where you have the street sign that it's telling you that, like, yeah, you're going to go on Main Street and you're going to go on First Street if you turn left or right. It's kind of like that, like they're crossroads, if you will. And regardless of what it costs for someone else, that entitlement is always going to reign through. Now, because of that, horror itself lives in between the two, right? Like they have this like desirement element and this entitlement element, which we're going to go ahead and discover a little bit more of today. Now, because of that, the moment we stop seeing another person as another person, as in, let's say, for Bear situation, because there was like hints and glimmers of Bear wanting to see Nikki, and it's like, is it even real? And blah 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 blah, right? Like it was moments where it's just like he wanted the real Nikki, but he also didn't see Nikki as an inherent person. And as soon as he stopped seeing that, he started seeing her more as an object of desire, right? He desired her. And that is where truly the horror begins in Obsession, is when the desire and I guess the dissatisfaction of not feeling wanted by that person forced him to change his desire into entitlement. He felt like he deserved that, right? And it's interesting because this is Obsession, right? Not just the film, but like it in general. Like Obsession is desire and entitlement just mushed into one. It's Obsession. Now, because of that, I'm going to introduce three particular pillars. Four, I believe I wrote down. Four pillars. Yeah. So, or four pillars, 3 or 4 pillars. I think that's what I was trying to say. But I'm going to introduce 4 main pillars. And with these 4 main pillars, this is where I'm going to actually be able to showcase a little bit more. Now, because of that, it is kind of this arc that you'll see where we'll have desire, entitlement, and then finally we'll have erasure of the other. Because of that erasure of the other, or when that erasure of the other happens, it is because of the desire and that entitlement aspect. Now, let's begin. Let's talk about Hellraiser. Because the first thing that popped in my head when I watched Obsession, it reminded me of one particular character in Hellraiser. It reminded me of Frank, of how Frank was so desirable of pleasure. And when he had this desire of pleasure, he wanted to do anything he could to obtain that. Finally finding the puzzle box and then meeting the Cenobites and how they introduce pain to pleasure. And it was just something that was really, really interesting in aspects of it. But because of that, that's the first thing that popped in my head. And when I thought of the situation that Bear placed himself in, where he desired Nikki so much that he was willing to make a wish that he thought that was probably not going to come true. It was a wish out of frustration, sure, but when it did come true, he didn't do anything to really stop it right away. And even then, he only stopped it because she took someone else's life. But because of that desire, we see, and going back to Hellraiser a little bit here, we see that the Cenobites are kind of often seen as the monsters, right? Like they're like, oh, they're the ones who are like freaky and blah, 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 blah. But like Clive Barker really made a very logical point of how Frank's desire was without any ethical ceiling, right? Like it didn't really have a morality to it. It didn't really have anything. Like he was willing to step on anyone to obtain whatever he needed to obtain to achieve that desire. And because of that, that's where that pursuit of pleasure is where it really turned into an aspect of sensation. That's where it kind of went into a more aspect of an indistinguishable ability of just going and suffering through just like pain, right? Now, he harbors Julia in this movie. Or wait, no, not Julia, excuse me. What's the name of the wife's name? Blanking out her name. I didn't write her name in my notes specifically, so let me do that really quick. No, yeah, Julia. I was thinking of Christy. He harbors Julia to perform like these murders for him and feed him blood so he can become a man again, right? And because of that, like Frank's desire required other human flesh in order to sustain himself. So once again, that desire of pleasure and that longing of also entitlement of Frank wanting to come back and be his full self again at the expense of others. Everybody else was just an object. Didn't matter, even including Julia. He didn't give a shit about Julia. He just needed hands. That's it. He needed somebody to do his bidding and be. What's up, ghouls? If you want to tune in to the rest of this episode, visit our Patreon, linked in the show notes for you. For $5 a month, you'll be able to watch and listen to the rest of this episode while gaining access to the graveyard of bonus content with your membership.